atonement for Israel again. Now, who cannot accept that? It's still the Father doing all the work. It's Him sending the Son. Read.
The chastisement of our peace was upon Him.
Read.
And with His stripes we are healed.
And with His stripes we are healed. What does that mean? Every stripe that Christ received, and He did nothing wrong, healed the nation. Read.
Verse 6. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way.
All we like sheep have gone astray, and we have turned everyone to his own way. Read.
And the Lord have laid on Him the iniquity of us all.
And the Most High put on Christ the sins of us all. So they're lying when they tell you that it's impossible for someone to die or get stricken for another's sin. For another's sin. Now, some people might make these asinine statements like I've mentioned earlier, and say, well, this is talking about Israel. If Israel have already sinned as a nation, how they can be stricken for their own sin to make peace with the Most High? That's impossible. In the law, it requires a lamb without blemish. Read.
Verse 7. He was opposed.
He was oppressed.
Oppressed. And He was afflicted. Yet He opened not His mouth.
Yet He opened not His mouth. While Christ was going through that whole ordeal, not once did He speak against the Father. And not once did He speak against the people who was doing this to them. You can't say this talking about Israel, because I can show you the Lamentations of Jeremiah, where he was crying against the Most High the whole time Israel was being afflicted. All through the Old Testament, Israel is crying out against the Most High. Against the nations that are destroying Israel. All in the prophets. But yet Christ didn't open up His mouth. He didn't deny it because He knew He was sent for this particular purpose. He had to die so that peace can be made between the Father and His people. Read.
He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter.
He was brought as a lamb to the slaughter. This is talking prophetic here. This did not happen to Isaiah's son. Read.
And as a sheep before his shearers is dumb, so He opened not His mouth.
He opened not His mouth. Read.
Verse 8. He was taken from prison and from judgment. Who shall declare His generation? For He was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people He was stricken.
Now read that again. It says, for He was cut out of the land of the living. That proved to you that whoever Isaiah is speaking of would come and would die for a people. He would come, get stricken, and get cut out of the land of the living for His people. There's only one man this is pointing to. Read.
Verse 9. And he made His grave with the wicked.
And He made His grave with the wicked. You notice, Christ was hung between thieves. So He was hung between sinners. He made His grave with the wicked. Read.
And He made His grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence.
Because he did what?
Because he had done no violence.
This can't be talking about Israel, because Israel done all types of violence all through the Old Testament. This was talking about Christ, who said, turn the other cheek. That if someone smites you on the cheek, give them the other cheek. He didn't use violence. Read.
Neither was any deceit in His mouth.
Neither any deceit in His mouth. Read.
Verse 10. Yet it pleased the Most High to bruise him.
Yet it pleased the Most High to bruise him. Read.
He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin.
So his soul was a what?
When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin.
This person's soul whom Isaiah is reporting on. This person's soul was an offering for Israel's sins. So my question to anyone out there who just believe in the Old Testament, do you believe in a soul being an offering for Israel's sin? Do you believe in that? And I'm going to show you how perverse Israel is as a nation. We would readily accept the soul of an animal before we receive the soul of the only begotten of the Father, the first begotten of the Father, which is Yeshua himself. It says here, listen to this clearly here. Yet it pleased the Most High to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin. I hope you all can see that. So that means whoever Isaiah is reporting on, soul would be an offering for the children of Israel's sins. Read.
He shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days.
He shall see his seed and shall prolong his days. Read.
And the pleasure of the Most High shall prosper in his hand.
And the pleasure of the Most High shall prosper in his hand. Go ahead.
Verse 11. He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied.
And it says, let's make this clear. He shall see his seed. We're talking about the Son of the Most High, the first begotten of the Father. And shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand, and he shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. So when the Most High seen Christ get afflicted, it satisfied him, because the punishment or the whipping of Israel would one day come to an end. Of course, we're in that process now of coming back to the Father, but without that first sacrifice, we wouldn't have the opportunity in 2011 to come back to the Father. Why? We were still bound by the old covenant. And under the old covenant, once you sin, and once you do gross sin against the Most High, you're dead on the spot. Without that soul being sacrificed, we would not have had a chance to get to a point to understand the Most High and follow the law, because we would be dead already. The things we do naturally in our life and just shrug it off as nothing was death according to the old covenant. Read.
By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities.
For he shall bear their sins. Read.
Verse 12. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death. And he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
And he made intercession for the transgressors. So I'm speaking of New Testament verbiage in the Old Testament. Made intercession for the transgressions of his people. That is Christ's, Yeshua's position. To be an intercessor between the Father and Israel and man. Now you notice Isaiah asks in the first verse, who shall believe this report? Everyone will not believe this report. But those who do believe this report and receive whom the Most High sent, will be covered under the new covenant and the blood of Yeshua. Because his soul was an offering for our sin. Now, I'm teaching this without the New Testament. Now, if this is not Yeshua, I need someone out there who don't believe in Yeshua or Christ to tell me who is this. Who is Isaiah reporting about? That their soul can be an offering for sin. Now, let's go through a few more. Ezekiel 37.
Ezekiel chapter 37 verse 21.
With Ezekiel 37 and 21. Hold up. Let's go back to Isaiah first. Something else I want to pull out in Isaiah. They're just coming up in my mind here. Go to Isaiah 11. Isaiah 11, since we're in Isaiah. Another thing, Isaiah also name is close to the Yeshua's name. It's almost the same name. Let's go to Isaiah 11. And you can teach the whole gospel out of the book of Isaiah. Christ was teaching of himself out of the book of Isaiah. You can teach the whole gospel of Christ. Christ, his walk, his death, everything. His birth, everything out of the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 11 and 1. Read.
Isaiah chapter 11 verse 1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse.
So this is prophetic. Now mind you, this is only a few chapters from Isaiah's son Emmanuel. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse. Jesse was David's father. Read.
And a branch shall grow out of his roots.
And a branch shall grow out of his roots. Read.
Verse 2. And the Spirit of the Most High shall rest upon him, and the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Most High.
Now I need someone to tell me, if this is not Yeshua, who is it? Who is this that would come from the stem of Jesse? Who is this? Now I know that when I go into the New Testament in Matthew the 1st chapter and look at the family lineage, Yeshua came from the stem of Jesse. Now we're showing the fulfillment of Christ in the Old Testament. We need someone who claimed that Christ is not in the Old Testament to tell me who is this that Isaiah is speaking of that would come from the branch. Come from the stem of Jesse. Yes, excuse me. Yes, you're right. I said it in reverse. David is Jesse's son. It's talking about David, who would come from David. Jesse is David's father. Okay? Read.